So next up, podcast listeners, we have the daily Biden dumpster fire. We have not one, but we have two. So good old Biden, Joe Biden, President of the United States. Let's go, Brandon. He is in front of what appear to be kindergarten students, maybe first graders, thereabouts, very, very, very young. And for whatever reason, they decided to bring in this creep into the public school system. I have to call him a creep, podcast listeners, because listen to the words of wisdom that your president of the United States gives the children. You cannot believe this. We have a clip on it, and here it is.
You know, when you're president, see all these people here? They're with you all the time. They get to ask you all kinds of questions, and you try to figure out how you can avoid answering them sometimes.
The president of the United States telling children, you have all these people following you around, and, you know, you got to figure out how to avoid them and not answer any of their questions. I mean, isn't the whole idea of education to teach character, to answer people when asked a question, to be respectful of people, to notice that they are even there and that they exist? And this guy did like the complete opposite to these kids. So on Monday, President Biden revealed he's quite aware of how he avoids answering questions from the press as he visited children at East End Elementary School in North Plainfield, New Jersey. Now, this is just me saying this, by the way, that Biden was probably there to be able to campaign for Governor Murphy in New Jersey. So he just happened to stop off at a school, a public school. While the elementary school children were playing at their tables, Biden intoned as he gestured toward reporters, quote, you know, when you're president, see all these people here, they're with you all the time. They get to ask you all kinds of questions, and you try to figure out how you're going to avoid answering them sometimes. You know, so podcast listeners, you're basically telling the children, well, when the teacher asks you questions, try to figure out a way of, you know, not answering them and avoiding the questions, you know, because you really don't have to do that. You really shouldn't have to do that. That's the president of the United States, what he thinks about your children and out of this massive opportunity that he has in front of the press to offer words of wisdom to children. Your president of the United States decides to offer those words of wisdom to the children out of everything he could possibly say. And so we also have another daily Biden dumpster fire. And this is good old President Biden campaigning for Terry McAuliffe in the state of Virginia. So, of course, you know that Terry McAuliffe, who's running for governor of Virginia, is in big trouble when he brings in a president whose approval ratings are upside down, even in the state of Virginia. You know you're in trouble then, right? It's like you want to bring in only the really popular politicians, the most popular, because then by definition, you're standing next to them. And by that association, people are like, oh, you must be a good guy because that guy's a good guy too. Well, then you bring Biden in and you're like, well, wait a minute. Most of the people in your state think he is an idiot because he is, the way he's run our economy into the ground. Well, you would only bring him in if you were really in trouble of not actually getting elected in the state of Virginia. So Joe Biden shows up because he was invited by Terry McAuliffe. And here is what Joe Biden said in front of the crowd. Folks, you tell me what he's actually saying. Here is the clip.
In fact, we're taking a page from Terry's book when he was governor and when he'd be governor next time. We're emerging from this pandemic. We want to expand pre-K for 3- and 4-year-olds, millions of pre-K students.
So he wants to expand pre-K for the millions of us and whatever else he said there. So, but there's more to that comment than what meets the eye, because it's not just that it's a daily Biden dumpster fire and that Biden is there and he completely messes up his words, podcast listeners. It's also the fact that Biden is in all places in Virginia campaigning for Terry McAuliffe. And what is Biden talking about? He's talking about expanding the educational monopoly even more to pre-Kers. So you have this problem in Virginia in K-12 where government schools are not functioning properly. Everybody knows it, including the citizens of Virginia, which is why you would get a Republican to win in a blue state at this point, because of all the stuff that you're seeing on TV about Loudoun County and elsewhere. And then the president of the United States comes into town to campaign for Terry McAuliffe. And what does he say? Let's expand the establishment, the educational establishment. So instead of K to 12, it's pre-K to 12. Oh, yeah. Let's engage in ideological warfare against your children at an even younger age. And then let's have Joe Biden show up and tell them how they should avoid questions, which is what he did in New Jersey. I mean, this guy, it's hard to believe that in modern America, that anyone watching the Democrat Party would think that it would even be appropriate at this particular point in time of electing a Democrat as governor of Virginia, and would be even willing to expand the government monopoly of schools. It makes no sense. They are in the wrong message, and they are in the wrong message, wrong time in Virginia. And this is the wrong group of basically old rehashed Clintonites and Obamaites who all believe the same thing, that all things emanate from government.